YouTube Props, look at this. We've got the T-28B, excuse me, D. And this is the Trojan 1.4 meter. We're flying it today on a smaller pack than we did on our previous flights. We figured out thrust reverse and flaps, all the goodies on the Air 620, along with the Reflex V2. So here we go, guys. Just getting ready to taxi out. Okay, so the first thing I have to do is go full flaps. Now listen carefully. I'm gonna put my mic by it. Yep, so it's going forward. So you didn't hear the beat probably. It's probably too quiet for you. But as you can see, we got forward thrust, but there's your beat. And then there's reverse thrust. And just one thing to watch out for on this plane with reverse thrust is the CG is such that it will like to tip back on its tail. So anyway, the wind is kind of going from our right to left, so we'll back taxi with the takeoff flaps, and then we'll just get off the ground really quick here. Okay, here we go, guys. Lighting's really good for filming, so it should be a great flight. Here we go. Not a long runway, is it? 3200 4S, Gen 1, so I have my balance leads. Okay, gear going up. Oh yeah. So this 3200 4S I haven't used forever, so I'm hoping we don't have any issues with it because it's just kind of been chilling there. Discharged for some time. It's kind of a weird size for us. Well, I shouldn't say that. It was for a lot of 1.2 meter warbirds of the current vintage, but we haven't done any of those for a little bit. Okay, take off flaps now. Love the landing lights, look really good up against the clouds. Lots of rudder, a little bit of throttle, about 75% throttle here. Full landing flaps. Let's bring this thing down the runway, nice and slow. Presentation, but I'm a little bit too tall. Okay, let's go out here. Now we still have pretty strong winds. There's our green light. Anti-crash beacon is still kind of hard to see, anti-collision beacon, if you will. Okay, coming in here for a faster pass. Amazing. See if we can draw this one out. You can always tell when the yaw of the aircraft has to be so to carry out one of these big sweeping loops. Okay, we're gonna go on the inside this time, camera crew. Okay, kind of flying into the wind, about 30% throttle now. Full landing flaps into the takeoff flaps. Wanted to bleed off some inertia, add some drag in, and look at that beauty. Absolutely gorgeous out of the flaps altogether. Doing a high-speed maneuver here. We'll get up and roll, and then let's intercept the birdies. Here comes the birds. Hey, birds. Those are ducks. They're way up there. Full landing flaps here. We're going to be going sort of with the wind, and I'll tell you when on my mark we're with the wind. Full landing flap. Clean pass, okay, out of the flaps. Go to the right. So folks, this is the first one I'm getting to really see this good because we had the sun just burning our retinas on the last flight. A little bit of reverse elevator just to keep everything coordinated in that roll. We'll bring it in and do a kind of a practice landing. Of course, we're not gonna land this direction, but just for fun. Really fast with the wind, guys, as you can see, but no time to bleed off any of our power. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go out over here. Now we may not get all the way to 5 minutes on this just because it's a smaller pack. We had been flying on a 5,000, but we do have thrust reverse. So I'm gonna go way over here so I can avoid that one tree in our final. Let's see if we can get a greasy. Oh man, ground effects screwed it up for me. I was so close to getting a greasy one. Let's see if we can do it, guys. So I want to show you guys a greasy landing because I know T-28s, that's one of my favorite things to do with them, is just get in and grease those landings. Tricycles, greasy landings, it's what they're all about for me. I'm just kind of hovering it in here, getting away from the trees, kind of cutting around. There's a tree right about where I passed by just now. And as you can see, the thrust reverse is super nice to get you slowed down in a hurry. And what an absolutely beautiful plane. We're gonna go ahead and see if we can taxi this back onto the runway because I want to take off again, guys. That was so fun. I'm gonna take off with the wind this time just to show you it can be done, no problem. Okay, we're out of the flaps, out of the gear. Of course, you're not gonna generally take off with the wind. It's just that we have a tight runway and the rudder authority as it translates to, oh, we got a gear door stuck. Let's see if we can recycle those. I'm gonna come around so you guys can see. Yep, everything's closed up. Full landing flaps on the way down. Very technical turn there. Okay, there we go. Absolutely gorgeous. Guys, I love flying this plane. It's one of my favorite planes. Okay, here's our timer. We got the countdown. 5, 4. Okay, we're just gonna carry down takeoff flaps. We're gonna take this for our final. We're gonna try not to cheat. We're gonna bring it in on a sharp final here. Okay, gear should be down. Full landing flaps now. We're gonna be out of the throttle altogether. Should be able to just take it. Guys, what kind of a plane is that? It's an awesome one. And yes, you may notice my voice is waning. It's been kind of one of those weeks and I'm probably getting a cold, but hopefully the rest of this video won't be quite as annoying to listen to. We haven't heard a voltage alarm yet either. So I think the only righteous thing to do would be to take off if I don't like run off the runway. Okay, here we go. All right, take off flaps. Nice gentle landing flaps just to get us off the ground and totally out of the flaps again already. Boy, I love flying this thing, guys. I don't know if my gear door was stuck or if I just was too impatient for it there. Those gear door are operated by a spring. Okay, camera crew, about 4 steps out this way. Do an inside pass this time, right over that little low tree. Guys, gotta love this plane. It just looks so dang good doing whatever it is you do. Full landing flaps. Get it around tight. If you're ever coming in a little closer to the ground than you want, try that. You'll be surprised how much performance you can squeeze out of a plane that might otherwise not. Dirty pass for you, out of the flaps, out of the gear. A lot of rudder to keep it flat there so we can keep it flying because we were with the wind there. Guys, the flight times on this plane must be really long. I still don't even know what we're looking at.
You do have a voltage alarm, right?
Yeah, it's plugged in. I'm gonna try just kind of a different crazy approach here. I don't think I'm gonna have enough room, but with that thrust reverse, you see where the wind's kind of pushing me off course here? Okay, so full landing flaps, you can really see it balloon there. I think our 6 and 10% is perfect, but you have to remember, look at this. I'm gonna run out of airspeed before I get to the runway. Yep, I ran out of airspeed before I got to the runway, out of the gear, out of the flaps. Getting into it, I don't like that line, just a little bit too hard to cut because this thing, I could probably do that, take off flaps or no flaps. But let's go up here and let's go around the tallest tree, bring it in, and let's see if we can line up without hitting that tree, hon. What do you think? Okay, full landing flaps here, about 30% throttle. Look at our, oh shoot! Those aren't flaps, these are. Thrust reverse. Okay, we're gonna go see the damage and just show you what can be done. Okay, so we're on the other side of our little drainage creek here. Looks like our our flaps were down, so I got those retracted. Throttle cuts on, reverse is back off. I can go ahead and pull this thing off. We'll just try to get back here without getting all gooped in mud. Well, it looks like our bush caught the tree, or caught the plane.
Where's the canopy?
I don't know. I wonder if we blew it off into the creek.
Oh.
Okay, so, oh yeah, it's down there.
Okay.
I see it. So nature walk, unexpected nature walk today, guys. So it looks like the plane is all in one piece. The prop has been damaged on 2 of the 3 prop blades. So I'm gonna see if I can get in here, but guys, look at this stuff.
Yeah,
this stuff is super fun. Look at that. It goes for, I don't know, it'll go all the way
everywhere.
Across this thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's multifloral rose or what it is, but I can get in here between all these trees. These ones are just gonna, but then look, these are raspberry bushes and they have
they're super
like a shark tooth. So you can see right there, that sucker gets stuck in your clothes and everything. And so I'm trying to avoid, you can see the raspberry bushes caught the plane. So
this might be a 2-person recovery.
Oh, you're saying you might need to pause for a second?
I mean, you can try and get through there, but.
Well, I'm not like super worried about getting back there. It's more a matter of getting back there without getting stuck a million times.
Yeah.
So This is part of the punishment of crashing, people. If you haven't ever crashed, you're not flying.
Right.
But there's our runway up there.
Yep. We're not that
So
far.
it's not like we're in a terrible spot. We're on our own property and everything. And so we're not really damaging anybody else's crap. But as you can see, thrust reverse can be a double-edged sword, and it can go from your best friend to your worst nightmare, all in a matter of seconds. And what happens is you're so used to having, you know, a certain series, a certain sequence of events, and if you don't do that exact sequence of events, it's amazing how a little change can make you crash. And I mean, it's like it takes you just that 2-3 seconds at a critical moment to realize what you've done, and you're crashed. And again, it's not like the end of the world. Nobody died, nobody got hurt, other than my finger just got poked. And to be honest with you, holy crap, I don't even think the plane is damaged other than the prop and like a hole in the top. Look at that, guys.
Right.
Seriously, I don't even know if the landing gear are. They might have bent this one back just a little bit, but that is just incredible, folks. Obviously, all 3 blades are broken, and I hope the motor's not broken, but I don't have any reason to believe it is. It is currently braking, which makes sense because I have thrust reverse on. But anyway, guys, I'm gonna have to like work with my wife to recover this, so that's where we're gonna leave you. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned, so much more from Brian Phillips RC. If you wanna help me recover from this crash, buy one for yourself, and you can live, and I can live vicariously through your not crashed T-28. Thanks for watching. All right, guys, so we just got in and we did recover the prop and spinner mechanism. Everything is fine on that, except for obviously the blades. So we will have to redo it. There was a little bit of damage in here. It just looks like a little bit of stretching in the plastic, but otherwise this thing will be fixable, totally. And watch this, this is crazy, guys. I thought for sure the prop shaft will be ruined. Throttle cuts off now. Look how perfect that is, guys. That's full speed, 100% throttle. That's how you can test. Now I'm gonna go into reverse thrust. Same thing, guys. We're totally golden. So basically at this point, all we have to do is just, now I wanna make sure I didn't see the motor pop. Ooh, you see? See what I just noticed, guys? There's probably a little bit of a motor mount issue there. Excuse me. And then I'm gonna show them one thing, guys. Okay, so this is one little hole from a branch. But other than that, let's show them the control surfaces, and a little bit dirty here. And if you guys have never fixed, oh, also the inside, this was redone so that our pilot would move. Actually, it was done so we could put a 6S pack in. We found out this thing wouldn't take a 6S pack, but I love it because the guy wiggles around and he didn't break at all, which is crazy. There's like 0 damage on here. There was a little water that got in there and that's about it. So we really super lucked out on that crash. Ailerons are working, elevator's working, rudder's working, steerable's working, takeoff flaps, landing flaps. Everything is working, elevator correction's working. Okay, so throttle cut's back on. So all we have to do is, obviously we'll have to order a new prop set, which come in a blade, like 3-blade bag, and we'll just rebuild that, and then this thing will be up and running, except for the hole and then the nose gear and possibly one of the motor mount issues, which I need to look at in a second. So I'm gonna flip this around and show you one quick repair, and I want you guys to see just how truly quick this can be. This is lightweight spackle. I didn't start using this until recently. A lot of people use it. Okay, so I'm just gonna get a little bit of this out. Looks like something like, I don't know, like maybe that, maybe a little bit less. Dropped it on there. So I'm just gonna stuff that in there. Camera crew is gonna hold the plane if it moves again. And of course it walked away from me, so I'll have to redo that. Just kind of fill the hole. Let go. And then once you push down on the nose, hard, thank you. Then once you get that in there, then you can just, that should be about it actually. You can just let that dry for a second if you want, or get it to where you're happy with the finish, because it needs a little bit more. This is way too wide of a blade. I thought I had a thin blade, but evidently one of my crew members, also known as my kid, got the wrong size one. So I gotta find the right size one. It's like a 1-inch blade, makes it a little easier for stuff like this. So you can either let that dry right away, or you can just work it until it's perfect consistency. And the problem is I always want it to be perfect right away, and it's frustrating because this stuff will dry in just a little bit, and then you can literally wipe that off with a wet rag and it will be just fine. And you'll never even know, unless of course you look at the difference in color, or you can touch it up, which we will probably eventually do. But what I've been known to do when I crash a plane that's like a common color, like yellow, I will just take a close marker and match it that way. So we'll just let that set up for just a second, and we'll pause and grab a plane stand, show you the landing gear. Okay, so come around here and you'll see right there, we have a couple of those raspberry thorns. Look at that. Oh, geez. That's what was trying to attack me, and then later the camera crew. This, we can fill it back in with spackle, which we just put away, so we'll get that back out, fill it really quick. And then I want to show you the nose gear while the spackle gets delivered. Okay, right here we have just a little bit of schmutz here. Looks like we have a gear sort of configuration here that's supposed to actually, is that supposed to be keyed in somewhere? Yes, it is. It is, and that's goes in right here to right there. So I'm gonna see if I can pop that back in right now. There's just a pin, there's a pin, and then there's the other pin. So now that will retract the gear doors when the gear is retracted, and it looks like really this one it's not broken, it's just got a little teeny bit of a bend back and just a little bit of dirt. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you a trick that sometimes works and sometimes doesn't, but I am of the mindset that it's better to try the easy way first if you can. Okay, so the best way to do it would be to undo 4 screws and lift it up. So let's try that first. 4 screws. Hey, camera crew, 1 step to your right, please. Thank you. Okay, so we got Phillips screws right here. Just gonna undo these 4. And then that allows me to take this whole thing out. And it makes it pretty easy to bend that back, because I don't think anything's wrong with the retracts at all. It just happens to must have hit the nose gear a little bit in that tree. I'm actually kind of amazed at how little the damage is. We're gonna end up having probably 10 minutes of repair. It would have taken us longer to get it out of the tree than it did to actually fix us. So 4 screws. Okay, so we'll get that in a minute. Or maybe one of the camera crew can help us, as in one of the offspring can crawl and find that. Okay, so we've got that. Thank you. So we're gonna pull this out. There's 3, and then the 4th is already undone. Okay, and I'm gonna show you exactly what you're looking for, folks. So here on Brian Phillips RC, where I show you how to fix stuff as much as we can. We don't always show every aspect of every repair, just because there's a lot of them. But the truth is, this is really not too hard, and so we wanna show you that even if you fly, you don't need to be afraid of crashing. It's just part of it to a certain extent, especially when you're new, you'll crash more than when you're a little bit more advanced, or you'll start making stupider choices when you're more advanced. Okay, so I'm gonna turn the wheel really sharp. I undid that set screw. I'm just gonna get this to pop out. May have to run the radio. Nope, got it out. Okay, so once that's out, now I'm gonna turn the steering back the other way and just rock it. Okay, so really all I need to do, you can definitely see there's a bend on that. So I don't know if I can get lucky enough to just, no, I probably can't. I probably have to pull this out. So I'm gonna grab forceps. Forceps will give me the ability to rotate that. You could use a needle nose plier if it was super long. We're gonna get some bent tip needle nose or bent tip forceps. And all I wanna do is undo this little hook point here. See this hook point here? That's all I'm trying to undo. So I'm just kind of rocking stuff until I can get that to pop off of there. And it's not really being very nice. Even though I've undid all that other stuff, I figured it would come right out of there, but it's really fighting me. Okay, so what's the next opportunity? I feel like the next opportunity, it's still that. That's probably the next easiest thing to get undone. I'm gonna rotate these bent tips that way. Nope, can't get that angle. So I don't know if you guys can tell, but I'm basically guess and check until I get something that goes. And right now, I'm gonna clamp onto that, see if it'll get me to tip. Nope, it will not. And this whole mechanism is right in my way. So I just wonder if I could pull this out. All I really need to do is undo this, I guess. If I can just get it out, that's fine. 2 millimeter again, or 1.5, I can't remember what this one is. Okay, so there's one side, and I'm able to turn this because it's not attached to the servo right now that handles the steering. Okay, so we've got, remember this elbow goes to the back and the wheel is in front. Okay, so we'll see if we can pull this straight out. We want to watch for springs and stuff. Okay, so see this right there? I light it next to the screws there, camera crew.
Okay.
Gosh, it's not wanting to come off of there. What the heck? Let's see if I can get this set screw out. Okay, little grub screw. Okay, so that's set right there. See, it doesn't want to come out of there. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna actually hang on to this because I'm gonna have to do this anyway, no matter what I do. And then I'm just gonna bend the dang thing back. Oh, It doesn't want to let me bend it, which is frustrating. I just can't quite get the leverage I want. So I think what we'll do is we'll pause, we'll get a second set of pliers on there. Okay, I wanted another set of channel locks or crescent wrench, but instead I'm gonna get just this big pair of lineman pliers. And all I have to do is just kind of bend this toward me if it'll go, which honestly, I might have enough torque here, I can do it. Just bending the shaft straight. No, I don't have enough. It's pretty sturdy on there, that's for dang sure. And you know what's going on is that the shaft, like this actually will come off. Okay, so we've got that off. You can see it's got a threaded grub screw there and a threaded grub screw there. But then this mechanism just slides onto the shaft. So now the idea is I need to bend that whole dang shaft, which means I'm gonna have to try to figure a way to get this stupid thing out, and this linkage is really making that difficult, guys. Usually I can get this linkage undone pretty easy, but on this plane it just does not want to come out. And that's actually a good thing in most cases. Not when you're trying to fix it, that's not true. Okay, I don't see a set screw anywhere else. That's allowed to move free, which is what we want. That's actually attached to this shaft, which is how you actually rotate it all. Okay, if I can, maybe I can just pivot the dang thing. Okay. So if I undo this, then I'll be able to get 2 set screws out here and here, and then that's the next move, I guess, because I can't get the dang thing to come out. That linkage is just atrociously difficult to get at. So there's one. This is not uncommon, folks, when you get into a steerable nose gear to have a lot of different steps to get down to it where you can work on it. The good news is I didn't actually break the mount. If you break the mount, that's where you're talking about, you know, really having to get creative and possibly building a new mount, or just, you know, replacing some sort of another apparatus in there to receive the landing gear, or just replacing the fuse. And that's one of the reasons why we like FMS aircraft, is that you can actually get parts if you want. That being said, I don't hardly ever get parts. I get props, and every once in a very, very blue moon, I'll get like a motor. But I've been doing that for years. Usually when I crash them, they're dead if that happens. Okay, so you can see here, now that we have a little bit clearer access, I might be able to kind of rotate this. Oh, finally, maybe. You doing good still there, camera crew? So I'm gonna take this. So See if I can get in there. All I need to do is get this stupid thing released. Okay, so I've got that clamped on there now. And you can see it's just being a real pain in the neck. Sorry guys. Sometimes it's really easy and sometimes it's just a pain in the butt. This is one of the times where it's going to be a pain in the butt. I'm not sure why it won't let me get the thing out. Okay, so next move then. We're going to go to our next alternative choice, which is going to be to undo it this way, which is where I'm going to try going in here. Nope, that's not going to get me to a set screw. Sometimes there's a set screw through here, but sometimes it's a different size too. That's not it. 1.3 millimeters. Nope. Okay, sometimes you have to actuate the gear. So we're going to actuate the gear. Okay, so the gear down. Okay, so the mains seem fine. A little bit of noise on the way out. Definitely doesn't make you feel super comfortable, but I think it's probably okay. Camera crew, do you see what I'm fighting there? I just can't get this dang thing to release for me. If I could get that dang thing to release, then it would be like no problem. Because then I could at least pull this out and see what I'm doing. But I can't seem to get the dang thing to release. Just so frustrating. Okay guys, all I need to do is bend this shaft. So if I can somehow brace this and then bend this straight, then we're golden. Or I can try to undo that grub screw there. That would be the next thing I could try. 2.5, nope. 1.5, nope. Where's 2? Where's 2? That's 2 millimeters. Okay, so we'll undo this grub screw. And then hopefully that'll let us take this thing off, which is the steerable linkage that goes to the main shaft. And it may not come off because this thing is bent. But we're going to try our best. Give it a good college try. Okay, so we got that off. So as you can see, it doesn't want to come off because it's bent. So that all stands to reason. So in that case, again, we're going to go back to plan C. There's no good way to brace this. And that's why I usually just try to do this inside of the aircraft. I just leave it mounted. That sucker's not going to come off of there without a fight. Let's try fighting it with a flat-bladed screwdriver, number 2 flat. Again, just a conventional tool, just a number 2 flat-bladed screwdriver. We'll see if it'll get off of there. Yeah, it's walking off. It's not a tapered pin or anything, guys. It's just that it happens to be bent right about that spot. So as a result, it's quite difficult to get the thing to come off of there. See, it's walking up. It's just like I'm going to run out of the amount that I can move that up. Oh, son of a gun. Okay. And again, I can't get in there and brace the thing to just bend the dang thing back yet. It's not even bent that much. That's why this is so frustrating. But you see, this collar prevents me from getting in there and actually making the correction that I want to make. Okay. Maybe we'll try this. See, I'm just trying to get in there and get the dang thing to pry off. Okay. So you see that? That gives me a pry point so I can go down to the bottom half and pry it off, maybe. Oh, for goodness sake. You can definitely see where it's got that bend to it. You see it? Mm-hmm. Okay. So we'll take and bite on there with our forceps. We're going to use that as a pry point. See if we can walk this off. Get it in there and just work it. Nope. Excuse me, guys.
if I can go this way. Yep, there it goes. Get off of there. So now the fun part is when you have difficulty getting things apart like this, you always get to look forward to putting it all back together too. So no matter how annoying it is taking it apart, it's always more annoying than that because you have to put it back together when you're done if you hope to ever get the thing flying again. Okay, so now that we have that kind of slid up, I'm gonna go ahead and bite the shaft even higher. This time with my bent forceps, so we get a little better bite. They're a little bit less, there it goes, guys. Goodness gracious, that was terrible. Okay, so now we did all that so that I could just get this stupid body out of here. You see how it's bent? See, we got a bend. So all we have to do now is basically get it turned to where we want it, okay? Let's find where the bend is. So the bend is all the way down at the bottom of the shaft. So it'd be best if that could come off, okay? So I'll lay that down too. So now all I have to do is just bite this and then bend against it. So in order to do that, ordinarily I would use another crescent wrench, but since I have this laying right here, I'm gonna try it. I don't know if I'm gonna get enough leverage, so we'll pause and get another crescent wrench. So I got some more crescent wrenches. They don't need to be any type that's special fancy or whatever, but obviously you wanna go to spin it and get it so you can identify where the bend is. And I wanna take and bite the shaft opposite the bend, okay? And then I wanna come up here and see now that I have that where I want it, I can bite down on it like that, and then I can come up here and actually torque on it, but everything wants to move, which is really annoying. Okay, so you see I've got nothing to hang on to, but the cool thing is I brought 3 crescent wrenches. So now once I've got a bite on that, the camera crew's trying her best to get you guys a shot. I can bite the body of this crescent wrench and it acts like a clamp. I barely need to bend it at all, that's why it's so stupid. I just don't know if I got enough on there. Nope, still got quite a bit of bend, so I didn't get it yet. And I don't want to just take and bite this here and just wail on it, but you could technically do that at this point, but you're going to immediately just break this housing, okay? So you can see what I'm talking about. If I were to do that, it would just break this thing because I have plenty of strength to bend that. So if I bite right there, that's about where the bend is, okay? So if I were to brace right here, then I'd be golden, okay? So the trouble is I just have to be at such a steep angle. You see what's happened? I have no more leverage there. And so the way I make leverage is I have to actually use a second pair of pliers to hold this. Okay. And so once I have a second pair of pliers or a death grip, one or the other, whichever comes first, I can take and press against my own weight of my hand. See if I can straighten it. Okay. So we're still not quite there, guys. Okay. So we'll get in here and we'll try again. We'll use a heavier one. I'm gonna get in here, see if we can just the right combination of the right angles. And I mean right angles because they're actually 90 degrees of each other. Okay. Yep, there it is. Now, let's look at this, guys. I know you thought I wasn't gonna get it. Look at that. That is plenty good straight, okay? There is a little bit of a walk, but it looks like, I think the walk, okay, so if I had to pick, that's up, that's down, that's up. Okay, so I need to bring it down just ever so slightly down, okay? So I'm gonna do that, then I'm gonna get the body of this one here, okay? I'm gonna just let it rest on those. I'm not putting any weight on that. I need to pull it down, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I've got this. So all I'm doing is setting up a clamp. Okay? And then I can pry against my own strength. It doesn't take much. And goodness gracious, it hit a branch at like 4 miles an hour. Okay, now probably one more bend. One more bend. This time I'm gonna bend it up, okay? So what I'm doing is I'm going to different spots on the shaft and straightening it. Yes, I know it's kind of hard to tell. It's a little bit hard to make out. The other way you can do this is you can hold here and then you can tweak this and you can brace that. So you can actually bend in the middle, but that's extremely hard to do. Usually I have to bend one at a time. Okay, so remember, spin it, find the high point, okay? Get it to the low point or the high point, whichever works better. Then I'm gonna bite the body of this one. That allows us to have a 90-degree angle on each other. Okay. I slide this on the shaft at 90 degrees. Now I can come out here and get real leverage. And slipped off the body there. Okay. All right, so now we can lay those things down and we'll see if we're straight. It's not perfect, but it's pretty dang close. It's close enough for what we're doing, that's for dang sure. Okay, so now we just slide it all back together. So guys, on Brian Phillips RC, we try to share as much of this as possible. It's a little bit embarrassing when you're a little bit more advanced pilot, but you know, like honestly, we do things that some people won't do, and that's fine. There's just, everybody has their own comfort level. And we don't tell people to do things that they aren't comfortable with, but what we do is we tell them to get out and fly. And one suggestion I can make that I'm always gonna make is to make sure that you're out there flying, okay? Fly as much as you can. Flying is the only way to absolve yourself of the pain and suffering of a crash, because really, otherwise you're just giving up. Don't give up. It's hard. It's harder to get back in the habit of flying. And one trick I learned back when I was really new at piloting RC aircraft was that I would actually go out and I would always bring like a simple plane. I'd always bring like an easy one, okay? And the easy one would be like in case I crash, I've got something to go home and remember. Do you remember those days, camera crew? Mm-hmm. And I'd be bringing out a new plane. I was really nervous to fly. And so what I would do is I would actually use that plane to get warmed up on. Okay, so it's a little bit bent there, so it's kind of giving me some trouble. So this time I don't have to bend near as hard because I'm barely bending at all. So I'm actually gonna grab the body of this thing and just do a little bit of a lever with the bot. Yeah, that's gonna screw up the thread, so I can't do that. Probably just have to let it down. So I guess what I'm getting at, guys, is if you're new to the hobby and you're trying to figure out kind of what it's all about, you're in the right place. We're gonna try our best to help you. But again, it does take some time, it does take some effort, it takes a little bit of skill and a little bit of luck too, especially when you're first learning to fly. Just lining everything up here, kind of plopping it back in. The easiest way to do that is just in the order that you took it apart, if at all possible. Okay.
You need to put screws back in, like set screws, or not yet?
Yeah, I do, but I just need that lined up. I don't need them in. Oh yeah, the set screws in the side?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you're probably right. We should probably do that, huh?
I don't remember what all you took out.
I took out one big set screw on this, but I'm having a hard time getting this to seat down where I want because it's really hard to hang onto the shaft at this point. So I'm gonna hold the shaft like this really hard and just give this a couple of taps. Did it go down? It's hard to tell. It seems like it went down. Don't worry about that door, guys. Oh yeah, we're good now. Okay, so now I should be able to use that grub screw, that big number. Of course, if that didn't fall, I'd wonder what the heck was going on. Say, go get me a lotto ticket. Okay, so we'll just run this back in. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna get this in. There it is, okay. Now we have set screws on the actual landing gear, but we can put that down after a minute. Let's make sure everything cycles quick. Okay, we're good so far. That one sounds a little bit annoyed with life. So I'm probably gonna have to be dealing with that at some point, but not right now. I think we're good enough. Okay, so now before we put this thing back on, I think we need to put this back on, right? Isn't that the order we did it on? Something like that?
I think so.
Okay. So I've got this, which is a 1.5, I think, millimeter. And the reason I'm putting these set screws back on is because it's extremely difficult to do that once this all gets set down, okay? And if I do this in the wrong order, I apologize, folks. There might be a better way, but to be honest, you know, you crash these planes a couple of times, you might do this in your life. If you're lucky. Okay, the set screw's not set back there, so that should not move. I just wanted to see if it would look like it's about right. Okay. Now this thingy needs to go in here, drop into place. Okay. Now 4 little baby screws. These are little machine screws, so they go into a nutsert. We talked a little bit about nutserts in this unbox build and radio setup. Okay. And camera crew hates filming these scenes because it's very difficult for her to get in where she can see. It's very difficult for me to see at times.
If you had invisible cams, it would be easier.
What, these?
Yeah, can you work on that? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll work on that.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna grab the Phillips. Whoops, grab the Phillips. Well, at least I haven't broken any glass vases today, so we're doing good. Okay, so we're tightening this down, and then we've got one more, and then we should be able to go ahead and get the retract mechanism reassembled and set into place. I am noticing what might be a missing spring on the doors, but I don't know that for a fact, so I'm just gonna assume it's just a fluke. Okay, so then these get lined in here. Very basic at this point, just realigning screws and putting them in, okay. Okay, so it looks like one of them might be a little bit longer. I have no clue how to tell. Probably the one that doesn't belong will not go all the way down, or it's just the same length and I was mistaken. That's happened that one time, day. Okay, so guys, after this, we have 2 real small repairs to do on the side, like super really small, like 1/4-inch gashes that are gonna be just like the top. Did the support crew get me the 1-inch scrape thing? Okay. Okay, so this is the 4th screw, folks. Oh, very good, look at that. That's what I was talking about. Okay, thank you, support crew. Okay, so this last screw is in. Okay, so our landing gear is in, but we don't have the retract door mechanism slid back into position yet. So this one's pretty simple. It just actually hooks in, but it has to go underneath here. I think it goes underneath the sweep of the steerable nose gear, okay? So as you can see, I kind of have to, and I'm sorry, cam crew, I know promise I'm not trying to block you on purpose. So guys, for us, when we crash, it's not like the end of the world or, you know, it's frustrating. Ah, yes, see the spring? That's what I noticed was missing. So I saw that, but I didn't know what it was at the time. So there's a super dinky spring. Oh gosh, that is gonna be so sucky to put back on. Holy crap, did I get it? So you gotta remember, whatever you're doing on a repair like this, you know, it may feel like, hey, I'm the first one that's ever had to do this. Just stop with that nonsense. You're not the first one and you're not the last one. And anybody who gives you grief about crashing is a fool, because if you never crash, you're not flying, okay? Now that's not to say that you can't do pre-flight, you know, inspections and things like that to try to mitigate some of that risk. But let's get right down to it. We're flying toys. This is fun. We love it. And we're going to have crashes because we're going to push the limits like you wouldn't in a real plane. And so there's nothing wrong with having a crash from time to time. So don't let anybody look down on you for having a crash. Just remember, people are sometimes a little bit little bit hangry, and you just slip them a Snickers bar and they'll be better. Also, if you look at that, you can see everything there works. Everything there works amazing. Okay, so obviously the only thing we're not gonna have fixed today is the prop. So difference, 3-inch, 1-inch, I think. So let's go over here and look at this, folks. So, that smells gross, doesn't it?
Well, oh.
Yeah, we're gonna have to put a little bleach in there, I think.
I mean, it's been like 20 years. We could probably
No,
buy
I
a
put
new
water in
container.
it. That's why it smells bad.
Oh, disgusting.
I know. Sorry.
Pretty sure
you're not supposed to do that. You probably should put a little bleach in there.
It's like maybe a little toxic.
Hey, whatever. I'm not eating it.
Ew, I know, but
Listen, just because my plane smells like butt now, it's no big deal.
that's worse.
I don't know. You do live with me. Look at this,
That's
guys.
true. I noticed that too.
Woo. That's like a nut. And you're like, but Brian, you didn't really smooth that in very good. I know. Don't worry about it, guys. It's not that big a deal. You don't have to smell. This isn't smell-o-vision. Here, take a
but
big
keep
smell.
it away from me.
The camera crew can smell it at least.
That's terrible.
Do we need another vote on how bad it smells? Come on, come over here, support crew.
Why do you keep smelling it?
It smells bad. It smells like somebody farted in there like 100 times and then stored it.
Maybe that's what our other support crew has been doing.
It's possible. Anyway, so you see this? Now I'm just gonna wipe off the excess and that's all. Now my hands will smell like it.
Great.
Yay.
Floor.
Yes, awesome. Okay, so all I'm doing now is just wiping off that little bit of excess, and that's called lightweight spackle for a reason. It is super duper easy to wipe off. You can clean it off your hands. Even if it's become toxic, the fart smell will rinse off, I promise.
Maybe we'll link to it. So if you need to buy a new one, and if it's been like 20 years since you've bought one.
So what you're saying is you're trying to
You
get
could buy
me,
your own.
You're trying to get me to buy from my own links?
Yeah.
Okay, well, whatever. Now the cool thing is, look at that. Even though I haven't even wiped it up all the way, it's gonna look fine. The only problem is I hope it doesn't happen to rest there. Now let's look at this again. Now this has had a chance to dry a little bit. See how it's dried? See, the only thing I don't like about this is that dried and I let it dry with a little bit too much buildup, mostly because I didn't think we were gonna struggle so much with the nose gear. So what I'm gonna do is I'll just wet a sponge from my wife's sink. Don't worry, it's not gonna get smelly with the fart stuff.
Great. We won't be cleaning our dishes with that later.
No, it's no big deal. No big deal.
The support crew can get a new sponge.
The support
when
crew
we're
could get a
done.
new sponge. Yeah, right. Maybe they can order it from the links. Oh wait, they use our money. Never mind.
Yeah, that's all the same.
Okay, so we'll just clean that off, and then now it just looks like a gaping wound, okay? So no big deal. Seriously, it's not a big deal. It's not gonna matter. Just kind of rinse it out of your sponge, okay? And then we'll just kind of wipe it down. Wipe it down. You could let that dry if you're really anal retentive about your planes, like, and you don't crash into trees because you put the thrust reverse on in final and stuff like that. But if you're like me and you do those things, you might want to just take your fart smells, open it back up. This is called lightweight spackle.
You mentioned that.
Oh, it smells like death.
It's really bad.
It is, but it works a lot better. It's more creamy. More creamy.
You don't think
It really
it's
is.
supposed to be that way.
Yeah, you can add more water to it, but I probably should have used some isopropyl alcohol or something. Ooh, that'd be a good idea. Alcohol would kill the bacteria, right? Maybe?
I don't know if you can kill whatever that is now.
Okay. Well, at least it's not me this time. So, now you can see that's not perfect, and it's not gonna be perfect because I'm gonna let that set up for just a second. It's not near as deep this time either, because remember, so I can wipe off some of the excess up here and some of the excess down here, and then just a little bit around the edges. And this will be pretty good, okay, guys? That's probably honestly all I'm gonna worry about right there on that. And you'll never know any better unless you're watching this channel and you see me crash things and you're like, hey, I spotted the damage from that one crash. And if you're that type of guy, I get it.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching, exactly. Okay, so the support crew is gonna pick up this stuff for me from off camera and go rinse it in the sink. And then I'm going to look at this motor mount now and just see if there's something broke free. It does definitely feel like a wiggle.
So the only problem here is, camera crew, if you could turn on your lights for the people at home. This is obviously one big piece, so there's 4 big screws, it looks like, that are on the outside. Right here, here's one. Oh, that does not like that long screw. Oh, thank you for popping out of there. It's like finally it started doing something useful. Okay, so we're gonna undo these 3 or 4 screws. I'm assuming there'll be 4 total, okay? So there's one up top. And guys, if you crash your plane, this is the moral of the story. A, it's a lot less work if you don't crash, okay? But B, if you do crash, welcome to the club of humanity. And better to know how to deal with it than it is to like just pretend like you're never gonna crash. Because A, that's just stupid, you're gonna crash, especially when you're new. But B, if you do learn to fix stuff, sorry, I have to put my elbow there, then you'll be a better pilot for it because you'll be able to help other people too. And that's one of the things we try to do here. And so once we give you bad advice on how to fly, then we'll give you good advice on how to fix. Is that pretty much the way that goes?
There's none on the bottom.
Oh, there's not? Okay. Okay, let's see if this comes off. Hopefully it doesn't rip all the paint and stuff off. Oh, it didn't. Wow, that was easy. That's thick.
Yeah, it is.
Holy crap. Look at that, guys.
Yeah,
That's like
really
thick plastic. Unusual. Must need to make up some weight there. Okay, so let's look at this, folks. Ooh, look at that. The mount is actually loose. Okay, so that is a tricky one because the screws aren't broke free. I was hoping I could just tighten some screws, but honestly, I can't just tighten screws because it's actually the mount that's loose. Tough call here. So now, the truth is, what's gonna happen is that's gonna pull out here when it's under load, and then when you do thrust reverse, it's gonna push back. So you could probably fly like that. I don't think you would even experience a bit of a problem until, of course, it broke free. So it's gonna be kind of hard to get that fixed unless you do something super smart, like stick some glue down in the hole and just hope for the best, which I think is what we're gonna do, okay?
Okay.
So I'm gonna use this stuff. It's not even rated for RC, so this is for speakers. And you're like, Brian, why do you keep using the speaker glue? Well, that's because foam to foam's out of stock.
Still out of stock.
And so we've been waiting for it patiently for a long, long time. Now, I could also maybe take the motor out, but then it's like just one more freaking set of steps. So I'm gonna see if I can just do it halfway first. Oh yeah, good. Let's get some, as if you haven't already screwed up enough, Brian, let's get some glue all over your wife's counter, okay? Note to self, folks, don't get glue on the wife's counter right after you crashed your plane and caused hours worth of delays to our schedule.
And broke her vase.
That was not from the crash though.
Still yesterday.
Was it really?
Sure it was.
Pretty awesome weekend. Okay, so I'm just gonna put that there and just kind of work it back and forth. And what that's gonna do is, my hope is it's going to just kind of work its way up into that side, okay? I'm gonna let that glue drip to the bottom. I'm just gonna work it up and down. And all that's gonna do is it's just gonna go into that crevice, okay? Yes, this is a little bit tedious, but what do we do on this channel that's not tedious, folks? Really?
Nothing.
The answer is absolutely nothing. Okay? So now there is a better way to potentially do this, and that would be to maybe push this back, but I just don't know that that's gonna come all the way out without like serious modifications. So I'm just gonna kind of keep doing this. Sometimes you can get these glue tubes with like a long, like a kind of a needle-y type installation help, aid, whatever you wanna call that. And you could put that long cylinder thing on there and squish it in there, if that makes sense. I'm thinking of what comes on the plumbing loop. Of course, I don't want to use that stuff because that might actually react with the foam. So I'm just kind of working this back and forth. You know, the other thing I could do is I could just pin this too, because it's not like it's coming out, it's not pushing out. I wonder if that'd be the easier, more effective approach, is to just pin the dang thing. Why don't we try that real quick? I know some of you guys are probably thinking, geez, Brian, you're really slobbing this back together. Don't you worry, I do that all the time.
side cutters. Side cutters, needle nose pliers. Let's do side cutters. Side cutters might be the easier way. Okay, so I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna cut like most of it, okay? Oh yeah, all but a little teeny bit. Oh, don't you be getting glue on there. You can't do glue, guys. That'll cause you problems with balance, okay? You're like, Brian, you're worried about balance using a Q-tip to fix your plane. Yeah, we've been using Q-tips to fix planes for years, and it's worked really good, actually. Surprisingly good, because look at that, guys. Now, I've slathered the good stuff all around that tight joint. So I just stuck the long skinny thing in and just put a bunch of sticky stuff in there. So it worked out really nice. I enjoyed it. I highly recommend it. So I'm just gonna clip all, but oh my goodness, it just shot right across the room.
Did you need that part?
That's what I was going for. I was gonna use that. Oh my goodness. All right, so we're gonna stick that into the sticky stuff, but first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just take and just slather that. Just slather it all over. And just get some good stuff on there.
I think you're not making a mess.
Oh no, I'm not, don't you know? Not at all, don't you know? Just gonna ram that in there, don't you know? Here it is, watch this. I'm gonna just stick that in there. Oh boy, don't you know, look at that. She's holding tight, don't you know? So, I think we need about, wouldn't you say, 2, maybe more?
Oh, really?
2 more heads.
That's a lot of heads.
Well, I mean, if you can stick 4 in there, then, you know, I mean, it's not the first time. Whoa, buddy.
Hey.
All right, so here we go. So as you can see, we're just gonna slather a little bit of good stuff on there. And you're like, Brian, it seems like you're preferentially treating that one side versus the other. You would be correct in your assessment. However, the reason I'm doing that is because down and right is the direction it wants to be, okay? So now I'm gonna stick this in there. I don't think we're gonna go with a 4th. I think this is gonna be the last one. There's definitely, I mean, she might be upset if you stuck a 4th one in there. 3 is her limit. Don't you think?
I think so.
Don't you know?
3 seems a little excessive.
Well, it certainly seems that way to me too. Okay, so now I've cleaned the goop off, and this is why I like this stuff, because what it does is it turns into this sticky goo, okay? Is there a reason you still have that flash on? Are you just trying to make me blind?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's hard to see in there.
No, I know, I get
Can't see
it.
in the hole and it's dark.
Well, I mean, that's just part of it, I guess. You just kind of have to work around it. Okay, so one thing too I want to talk about is now that we have that done, we obviously want to make sure that none of that crap shoots out, okay?
Yeah,
so there's the first one that we stuck in there is just a little bit of the fray stuff. You don't want that to get stuck in the motor. So I'm gonna just work that around. And if you look inside of there, guys, there ain't no way that's coming out, y'all.
See, I was showing them.
Yeah, see? That looks really, really nasty. Hey, show them the motor. It's a 42, 58, 650 kV motor. Cool, right? I knew you guys wanted to see that. That's why I crashed the plane purposely, so that you could see the motor.
The motor?
That was, it's all part of the plan, guys.
You could have like read them in the box.
Oh, dang it, that would have been so much easier. You're right. Okay, so folks, listen. If you're not crashing, you're not flying. And I know some of you guys with more experience are probably gonna be like, you should have checked the linkage before you took off. Guys, I made a mistake. Nothing failed. I failed. My right hand and finger failed. I made a decision to land and I put on my thrust reverse. And guess what, guys? You got to see how effective it was in the air. It was very effective. Very effective at letting me crash. And folks, listen. Now you know this plane will fly even with the reverse thrust on. But that doesn't mean you should do it. And you want to be a little closer to the runway.
Yeah, maybe have less trees.
Don't be over the creeks and villages and stuff. Yeah. Wait till you're past all the thorn bushes.
Yeah.
So now that we've done all that work, why are the flaps on anyway? Why did I do that?
I don't know.
Well, they're off now.
Okay.
So basically, guys, what have we learned? We've learned thrust reverse is a double-edged sword. We already knew that. Don't turn thrust reverse on while you're in flight. We already knew that.
Don't put water in your lightweight spackle.
Well, actually it worked perfectly for what I wanted. It's just that basically it smells bad now. So we'll probably put some bleach in there. And then obviously these props broke. So amazingly, the spinner assembly is perfect.
Did you want those?
Yeah, let's just show the people at home the way that looks. It really.
Like took all the paint off and everything.
Yeah, I mean, these things get really foobarred, guys.
Yeah.
So all I got to say is I'm actually incredibly impressed with the way this plane performed in that crash. Because to be honest with you, you won't ever know any better unless I didn't fix this prop. Because it's gonna look almost perfect and it's gonna fly just fine. In fact, we always do this at our channel. Okay, look at this. No wiggle, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, there's always gonna be a little bit of wiggle on a foam plane because like, you can bend the plane itself. But once that glue sets up, it's gonna be rock solid and it's gonna hold on forever. And our pilot, our little wiggly jiggly guy, he didn't even fall out. So the moral of the story is get up there and fly. You don't have any excuse. Don't fly a plane that's beyond your skill level. And this plane's not beyond my skill level. I just made a mistake. And if you're afraid of making mistakes, you're probably in the wrong hobby. So honestly, get over that because that's what life is all about, is learning from your mistakes and then being better every time you make one. But unfortunately, sometimes you make the mistakes you've made before. And by the way, look, our battery isn't even a low voltage warning yet. And we've been doing this for like, just
49 and a half minutes.
75 minutes of flight time. Show them the timer on the thing.
Oh, +5, right?
+5. So 80 minutes, folks. 80 minutes is a little bit longer than we expected this flight to last. But I must say, I love the way it flies. It's definitely worth a couple minutes worth of effort, and a replacement prop. But what a sweet plane. I love the thrust reverse still. Even though it bit me on this time, I'm gonna use it like every other time. So still very happy with it. What can we learn from this? Just be careful, practice maybe. I know where it is. I've had this happen one other time. It was with the Viper 90 and it was in a moment of duress. It was a very unusual circumstance. We had drunk people driving toward us. It was very weird.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so I made that mistake, but I had a large amount of weird distractions going on at the time. I'm not exaggerating, there were actually drunk people driving toward us. So it was very weird, and so we had a good excuse that time. This time, I just genuinely made a mistake and didn't have time to identify and connect the dots on what I had done. Okay, so the quicker you can identify that problem and respond, the quicker you're gonna be able to recover from that mistake. And so how do you get better at finding out what you've done wrong, camera crew?
Practice, fly.
Fly, crash, make mistakes, learn to identify them quickly, learn to respond to them quickly.
Well, and one thing you've always said since you started flying was that you would learn something from every crash that you had. Like
100%. If you don't learn from every crash, you're gonna be stuck crashing the same way over and over again.
Right.
So I'm really critical of myself when I crash, especially when I make a mistake that could have been avoided. And this, you could slice this piece of pie 100 different ways. You could slice this cake 100 different ways on how we could have avoided that crash. But at the end of the day, it happened. So, there's no time machine. And if I did have a time machine, I would be just doing this all for enjoyment. I wouldn't have any bills. We'd have millions of dollars in the bank. I'd be flying real airplanes. My wife would have a bigger wedding ring. Our kids would have cars and Bentleys and things like. But this is the reality we live in. You have to go through some of these circumstances to get better at what you want to be better at. So it's really cool. And if you find the crystal ball, please do share on where that is so we can go ahead and use that a little bit to help our lives be easier. But honestly, that's also with the lows, it helps to accentuate the highs, because if everything was easy in life, then life would be really kind of boring. So, you can't, you say that, but seriously, life would be boring. It's the spice of life is when things go wrong. That's when you learn what you really want. So it's pretty cool. And what do I want? I don't want to crash. So hopefully you learned something with us. And as we usually do, this will probably end up being a second thoughts because we're going to show the flight right now. Stay tuned.
It's been a couple of days. And so we got this replacement prop, which comes as 3 blades. and not so much the whole set. So you do have to think about whether or not you've damaged your hub, okay? So in my case, I have very light damage on the hub. And if you guys had forgotten what happened, just rewatch the last 20 seconds of the video and you'll see what happened. And you'll see us in the woods dragging this beautiful plane out. This is the 1.4 meter. And so just a few things have happened since then. So now we have another one. This little 400 millimeter warbird is the T-28, the smallest one we have, okay? Just to give you an idea of the difference. So when you guys are looking online, it's very hard to get a scale for size. Okay, this is 1400 millimeters and it's big. It's very detailed and it's very nice, okay? This is 2 meters. And look at the difference in scale between 400 millimeter, and we showed in the unboxed build radio setup for this one, we showed the 900 or 750 millimeter, something like that. Then we go up to 1100 millimeter, then we go to 1.2 meter, which is the E-flite one, opposite this E-flite one. And then we end up with this one, which we've been flying. And this is an amazing plane by FMS. It actually has a more sophisticated retract system, in my opinion. It's got better gear door, and it's got a little bit more detailed canopy. The pilot looks actually a lot cooler than this big plane. But I just want to point out a couple of things. This plane must have higher wing loading, okay? Even though it's faster on its feet, because this one flies on 4S, and it's got ample power, plenty of ups. But the presence in the sky cannot be measured. So we don't do a lot of side-by-side comparisons, especially when they're competitive brands. But we do want to show that because we don't want you guys to think that we're like somehow, you know, like not speaking to those details, because it is important to you. And I'm just noticing that my landing gear might be slightly bent, because I just noticed that actually. I don't know if you guys can tell. It looks like it's a little bit cattywampus, like it's a little bit kicked over to the side. I don't know for a fact that that's it, but here's one way you can test. Take your landing gear, does it move in and out? And it's kind of hard to tell if that's moving. Oh yeah, it is. It's got a stop right there at the top and a stop at the bottom. So I think we're fine, even if it's a little bit cattywampus, and you have to film from this angle so you can see. I don't know if you guys can tell from that angle actually, so you gotta get lower. What I'm talking about is down here, there's probably a 4 or 5 degree change from totally 90 degrees. It's minor, but it is a factor. So whenever you have a plane crash, and then I didn't get a chance to point this out super close in the videos, but you see my pilot, you see how he moves? That's because we thought this thing flew on 6S, which it doesn't, by the way, full disclosure, and we did mention that. But our apologies if you thought. I love the way it moves. It was such a cool side effect. I totally didn't want to have to do this, but then it was this cool little detail where now the pilot moves and shakes, which is super fun. So anyway, really happy with this plane. Really good plane. If you can't get this, this is a really close second, but I must say the 1.2 meter E-flite one has thrust reverse built in. It's a little bit more punchy on power to weight ratio because it is smaller, and I feel like the wing loading is just a little bit lighter. So that's gonna give you a little bit more floaty performance if you want to. So again, these are the details. You have to weigh and balance what's important to you. But what we're doing tonight is we're gonna fix this prop, and I'm gonna show you exactly how to do it. It shouldn't be that big a deal, but I got my transmitter out in case, we're trying to show this with as limited number of tools as possible. If you don't have one of these, there's other ways to do it, but this is the easiest way. This thing's a Debro tool, and what it's got is a big wheel that goes here, and a big wheel that goes here, and a wheel that goes here, and you can put these up and down. You can hang these or whatever you want to do. You can also use these to level your station a little bit too if you want, but I just usually lay it down and I just get it where it needs to be, and then this thing is allowed to spin, and you're like, how does that tell you if your prop is balanced? Well, I'm going to show you that here in a minute. Because as you know, when you get into these bigger props, like you're spinning this thing around, if it's not balanced, you're gonna know, okay? So the first things first, we're gonna take our 2 millimeter driver, and we're just gonna take apart the hub. Obviously this one's broken, and we're missing the other 2 blades, okay? Just to give you an idea of the difference in size, kind of hard to tell there, but once we open this bag, you'll be able to see. We'll assemble the hub. I actually really like this style of prop because there's a lot of times that you're gonna hit the ground and break one blade and that's it. In this case, I was pretty much trying to fly in a tree. So, you know, you don't find success generally when you do that. So it's nice because you can order this, and a lot of times you end up getting more than one repair out of it. Because maybe you're spinning around and you just chip one of the corners off. It's more than you want to try to balance. And you don't want to give up a lot of surface area on your props. So, you know, just a thought. And I love the colors pop. So again, this one has a lot of scaled, refined details that you don't necessarily get up here on this bigger one. But the thing is, this one's a little lighter on its feet compared to its size, I think. Okay, again, somewhat of a matter of opinion here, but we like to bring you guys the full story here on Brian Phillips RC and not just my opinion. But at the end of the day, it is still ultimately going through the filter of Brian Phillips.
Right.
So, you know, we don't mean to mislead at all, and we actually love both of the planes. So my suggestion on T-28s is as many as you can get.
Yeah.
Okay, so there goes the nut. That's a Nylock. So of course you guys did not put Loctite on those because Loctite will deteriorate the little piece of nylon that's in there, and it can cause it to have a bad purchase, and then the nylon will actually potentially fail too, become brittle and just fall out. So we're just gonna lay these out of the way on our disappearing act surface here. Now also, we didn't notice any loosening that was, you know, egregious from the thrust reverse, but we also didn't have a ton of flights. And so what I did is every time I'd walk up to this, I would just take and crank that. Same thing here on this one, because it's also got thrust reverse. I also felt like the manual saying that you can only go 50% of throttle in thrust reverse is probably a bunch of BS. I don't think it's any problem. I've kicked mine up since to about like 70% because we limited our throttle throw when we were in full landing flaps and thrust reverse, which is actually stealing from the flaps channel, as you know if you watch the setup, which is earlier in this video, right? Yes.
Yes,
well, or maybe it's in the Maiden.
It might be in the Maiden.
It's in the Maiden. So if you guys haven't seen how to turn on the thrust reverse in this, it is very convoluted.
It is.
And that's part of the reason why, you know, if you're not comfortable with it, if you got a long runway, you won't need it. But I gotta say, I can land this one in a shorter distance than this one.
Yeah.
You know, realistically. And it's a lot bigger plane. But you can also slow it down more, ground speed wise. So, also the trajectory of the wind that particular day might have been a little bit different.
That's true.
So let's look at this, guys. Okay, so we've got the nuts out the back. Now we're just gonna pull the screws out. Okay, so ironically, I had a cold while we were doing this yellow plane. And then I was kind of like, okay, when we were doing this plane, which is not too much further later on.
No.
Chronologically, and now I have like the sinus infection after the cold.
Yeah.
Yay.
Way to go.
Yeah, good job, me. Okay, so if you hear me a little nasally, my apologies. But it's been, what, like a week or something? Week and a half, 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's almost
since
two,
I've been
probably.
waiting on parts.
Yeah.
So,
Good
and we
time.
did get more than one of those too. So we got a couple of these, and then we got some for the P47.
Yep.
1.5, which happens to be the exact same prop that's used in the P40, which just has 3 blades. And it's got a different type of spinner. The P47 has this hub style and it's 4 blades. So this thing is really not wanting to come apart. So I'm trying to figure out if there's a way I can, you know, carefully pry.
I remember it being tight when you put it together.
Yeah, and usually you can kind of use the prop to do this, but it's just not wanting to give me any purchase. So I'm gonna grab a flat screwdriver. So guys, when you're thinking about doing builds on these aircraft, if you're coming back to the hobby and you know, you probably have all the tools, except just keep in mind you're gonna be dealing with a little bit more metric and a little less standard than what you might have remembered, because a lot of the stuff is actually standard or metric in terms of the nut sizes and things like that. You can usually get away with standard tools. But in my experience, it's always just better to just get the right one if you can. So I'm gonna go inside of here so I don't damage that chrome finish. And I'm gonna come in here and I just wanna pry this, but I don't wanna pry it out here where it's gonna be seen. I'm gonna go inside of here and see if I can get it started. Excuse me, guys. I didn't cut
yourself?
it. No, I'm just calloused enough. I was thinking I was gonna cut myself, so I just janked away and whacked the camera crew.
Nope, you missed me.
Sorry about that.
You're good.
Okay, so this is the back, and that's the front. And you can tell because of this octagonal cut versus the cylinder cut, or the circle cut. So we're just gonna take this off real quick too, and just get that out of the way. And so you can see a little bit of debris and stuff here. That's just from the clearances. Okay, so we'll lay that down. And this high gloss finish. Look at that pair, guys.
It's a little similar.
Kind of shiny. Makes you want to grab them. Okay, so we're just gonna lay this down here. And actually that makes me quite interested to see how big this prop would be compared to that prop shaft. I bet the shaft is a different size though. In fact, let's check. Because everybody else watching this video is curious. That is a lot bigger motor. Oh, there's no way that thing, you know what? I'm not gonna take that off because that's a lot of work.
Check on your own plane.
I'll check, yeah, I was just gonna say. Okay, so I'm gonna take one blade at a time and I'm gonna put these in here. Now, I don't know if FMS matches these at the factory or the assembly place or wherever they do their little kits, but I can definitely tell you that when I replaced one of the 4 blades on my P47, I did have to balance it pretty significantly. I mean, I spent a long time balancing that because there was just a lot of extra material on that one. Now, it might have been because it was just a match set and I was not pulling the full set out. I was just pulling one of 3. I wouldn't have been able to do all of them because I only had 3 because it was a kit for the P40. Okay, so you see this, guys? Just dropping that in there. Okay, so this is just like our assembly earlier, but I just want to show you how to do it if you weren't already aware. Now, I definitely can tell you this, if you've built this plane, you've already done this once. So I'm just kind of pressing them until they drop into the keyholes, okay? And then I'm just pressing together and just kind of making sure we have a decent fit here because there is 1 key and then there's 1 bolt, okay? So we'll push that through. Yep, we've got good purchase and penetration. We'll do the same thing here, purchase and penetration. Oh boy, just wiggling. It won't go all the way, so I'm gonna see if it'll walk in if I do this, which it is. That looks pretty sweet, actually. Just imagine if that was a little bit bigger.
A little bigger.
I wonder if that thing would work on this plane. That would be so sweet if it did. Because I love this size. I love the 3-bladed prop. But it's just, I think it's gonna be a little bit too small. Because this one here is only 13.9, okay? So this one is a 14.75 by 10, right? 14.75 by 10. Yep. So it's not a gigantic difference, but that extra inch of outside dimension is pretty significant when you compare it to 13 compared to 14.75. So you got 2 inches of bite more on that and 1 inch more. So usually what I try to do is when I go to a 3-bladed prop, I'm usually comfortable with going down maybe 1, and then, you know, I can, you know, take 1 off of the pitch, 1 inch off of the pitch. And I try not to go bigger because then you run the risk of burning the motor out. So, or the ESC or whatever. I mean, you're gonna change the load, the electrical load, the wattage that's actually being used. So it's not so much just, you know, it's not just a static system. I mean, it's dynamic. The loads change as you fly. So if you're gonna do a bench test, you might be able to get an idea, but really the only way to actually know if the plane can handle it is to just fly it and see if you melt windings. And so a lot of times what happens is the quality assurance people at the factories will test that. They'll just go out, put a different prop on the plane and, oh, yep, that's too much. We fried a motor. Instead of sending out the wrong size and having everybody fry their motors. Or you watch Brian Phillips RC, you watch him fry his motors. That's usually how we recommend. So now I'm looking for claps here. See how this is opened? So I'm gonna look for claps there on the outboard portion there. It's chrome, so it's easy to kind of miss, but you see, we're gonna get that collapse now. And just keep in mind, this is spinning at a really high rate of speed. And so you do want to make sure that this thing is really tight and really secured. You don't want to, you know, slap it in there. Okay, so watch this. Now we're gonna do that? No. We're gonna take and put it in the prop balancer. I'm gonna show you how to use this in case you guys don't already have one. Again, I've had one of these for years and we almost never use it. Usually what I do, so there's a spring, there's a washer, and then there's a piece of fuel tube, and then there's a triangle, okay? So you just feed this on either direction, doesn't matter. And then this goes on over here. Now it is possible you could get so big that it doesn't actually work on here, but it doesn't need to be, it can be longer than this clearance and still work, okay? And I'll show you why. Because all you need is you just need to see if it tips one direction or the other, and that tells you where your extra weight is, okay? So you don't want this to walk, so you have to push in and make some pressure. And I usually like to spin the prop on there. And then of course now you can see, it looks like this one will need a little bit of work. And you can tell whatever the heavy prop is because it's gonna swing down, so you can tell it's gonna be this one. You don't have to have it one way versus the other, but just usually what I like to do is I'll let it spin a couple of times and I can tell it's gonna be this, but it's very small. And then you wanna make sure that your bushing surfaces aren't touching because that was touching. So basically wherever this face was, it was hitting along one of these wheels, okay? So you can tell pretty obvious where the weight is. Where's the weight, camera crew?
Over here.
Now you can also do that with the hub and with no blades on. But I would say that we are really close.
That's pretty close.
Because watch this. Okay, now I'm gonna go and we're gonna test our theory. Now it should fall that way if our theory is correct. Okay, so I'm just gonna hold my finger here and give it a second to relax, and then I'm gonna pull my finger away. Okay, so it went that way. So we know that that's still heavy according to our theory. Now we're gonna go just past center and we're gonna test it the other way. Remember, we're not looking for speed, we're just looking for imbalance. So it still went that way. So what does that tell us? So this one's a heavy one, right? Mm-hmm. Do we know that yet?
Well.
No, because that could also be heavy. You see what I just figured out there, guys?
Yeah,
so
because you were
just keep an eye on this one. Okay, so what that tells me is that this one's heavy and that one's also heavy and that one's light. But it's super close, folks. So now I'm gonna do the same test. Remember, I'm just keeping my eye on this. The camera crew's gonna help me. Okay. So now if this is really the heavy one, it's gonna go that way. Okay, did I have that past center? I don't think I, see? So in tandem, so this one's still the heaviest. And so what we need to do is we need to either take a little bit of material off of this, okay? Or we need to add a little bit of weight to that. Now, because we're so dang close, I'm gonna show you a trick that I've done in the past and it usually works. And this is a trick that's really, really jankety, but I just wanna show you if you're in a hurry or if you're out at the flight field, you can do this quickly. And it usually works better when you're at the flight field, okay? So we're gonna just test our theory again. So I'm gonna show you two ways to do this. One's a halfway and one's like a full way, okay? So we're gonna just confirm. It does kind of help if you mark the prop. Of course, now it's gonna act like it's otherwise perfect. So this is the one we believe to be heavy, okay? You're like, how do you keep track of that, Brian? I don't know. Pure luck. Okay, so obviously this one's gonna be heavy for us. So this one will be slightly light. So if you're ever in any doubt, you can take some tape, and usually you don't need hardly any, okay? So just a little bit. And I'm gonna go away from the paint because this is not gonna be a permanent solution for me. And you see that little rippled edge there? I'm gonna actually cut that off too because it makes it real hard to take those off if you ever go back to fix this later, okay? So this is just a quick way you can apply that. Okay, so we've just got it on the leading edge. So, you know, I mean, we do have thrust reverse on this plane too, so it could go the other way. Now watch this, I bet that's gonna be the heavy one now. Oh, it's so close. Okay, so we started with that at top. Now let's start with this at the top. Just a little bit. Oh man, that's so close. Mm-hmm. So, but I don't want this tape on here, so I'm gonna peel that off, so I'll find a clean edge, and I'll just work that off. And just keeping in mind, these do eventually blow off of there. And so when you've got your plane and it comes off of there, then you're gonna notice that your plane starts vibrating and you'll hear that noise. So let's figure out which one we're dealing with again, okay? So we believe this to be the heavier one. Do we? No, that's the lighter one. So this one to be the heavier one. Okay, now I'm gonna try going the other way. Nope. So this one, it's just a series process of elimination. You can do this with 3, you can do this with 4. Okay, so that one tends to be the heavier one. And how do we know? Because now you see what's happening? We've got these two, it's competing. So this one's the light one. The light one or the heavy one. In this case, I'm gonna go the other method, which is to add a little bit of weight. And you're like, what? You're gonna add weight? Yeah, because it's easy. And it's permanent and it's very clean. Okay, so that's like 3 big drips of CA. So that's a little bit more than I probably would normally do, but this is a pretty big prop, okay? So now I wanna get this outboard as much as possible, and you're like, you're spreading it out. Why are you spreading it out? That seems dumb. Well, I wanna spread it out so it makes as least aerodynamic impact on this prop as I can do. And so I don't wanna like hug the edge too much, but I do wanna make it look clean, okay? So I just put that little bit of glue on there. Now, remember, this has carriers that are gonna dry, okay? So you may have to overdo it slightly, because then once it sets, it's gonna change how heavy it is, okay? That is really good. Holy cow. Like, okay, now let's try this. Okay. And honestly, like if I was balancing a prop, I would have called that good already, but I want to show you the principle behind it. So it's not one to really favor a lot one versus the other, but we are still kind of going down here now. It's overshot, but it's still going to come back to this one. Okay, so this one was the one we added the glue to, as you can see. Okay. And then I'm just going to go a little bit more, and you guys are probably thinking to yourself, that's a lot of weight you added there. Well, you'll be surprised because it's going to sound like nothing's on this plane. It's going to just be perfect. And it's super, super easy. And it takes, you know, seconds to do. Now, you don't want to put a bunch down here because you're wasting the weight. You want it to be usually on the outside, you know, all the way out, as much as you can do, okay? It's kind of easier to do if it's braced well. Because the stuff is thick, it's CA, okay? You can see it's got a little bit of thickness to it now. All right, so we're just gonna go back onto the spinner thing. Now, we expect this to be slightly heavier than the others now. So it is kind of working its way around, but that could be from this one too. Okay, so how do we test between this one and that one? Well, we give this the opportunity to win out, okay? So we're gonna put this up here. If it's heavier, it's gonna go that way. If this one's and this one are equal, then it's gonna probably stay, okay? So it's still got a little extra weight here. So I'm gonna take a little bit off of here, just kind of rolling it up. And remember, some of that's gonna dry, so you're gonna lose some of that carrier that's in there. Okay, and we're just gonna try again. You just keep doing that until you're satisfied with the results. And I mean, I can tell you right now, that is gonna be really, really good. That is super well balanced. Because it just doesn't, there's hardly any hesitation, okay? And at the end of the day, it's a model aircraft. It's not like you've got a real person in there that's gonna be vibrating around. But vibration is a waste of efficiency, and it will cause your plane to lose some performance. So, okay, so now it's stopped and it's gone back the other way. So which one's it gonna go to? Now it's kind of debating. So gravity is still gonna take over and win. So it's kind of between these two. So this one, as you can see, is where we added our weight. So we did the right thing. We just maybe didn't do enough of a right thing, okay? So that's a pretty big drip there, guys. So I don't know if you guys have ever done this, but I want you to know that there is a method to my madness, and there's more than one way to skin this cat. But I mean, you can also take weight off of the other side. But on a 3-bladed prop, sometimes you got to figure out, do you want to add a little bit of weight? You want to take a little bit of weight? And it's kind of like, it's the same either way. You know, you just pick whichever one is easier for you. Okay. That is pretty stinking close, guys. I mean, like, honestly, even for me being OCD, that's pretty dang close. So we've got just a little bit more weight here. Okay, so now let's go here and put that past center. And I know some of you guys are probably thinking, well, what if your counter's not level? That's gonna make, you know, a negligible impact. It's not a huge deal. You don't wanna be way out of level, but you know, we're fairly close on this counter, okay? Okay, so now, just kind of do it, test one more spot. That is so small, it's like nothing. Okay, so now, what I wanna do is I wanna take some kicker, and I'm gonna just like set that up so I don't lose any more, and then we'll retest one more time, okay? So I don't want this to fling off here in a minute when we start testing it at speed, okay?
True.
So I'm basically gonna put this solvent on here. Now keep in mind, this stuff has weight too, but as you work this, if you're careful the way you do it, it'll set up really quick and you won't lose too much material. But as you can see, that chemical reaction will take place. Now, sometimes I find myself adding and then subtracting a little bit and just kind of overshooting and everything. I got lucky today, I didn't overshoot too bad. And we need to let that set up for a second. So while that sets up, we'll just kind of put this out of the way. And if you guys have never actually been part of Brian Phillips RC before tonight, this is an unusual video. It's kind of an, you know, it's a build. This is what we call like one of our second thoughts videos where we go over, in this case, a crash that I had with this because I accidentally left thrust reverse on in final. And so, you know, we try to teach each other what we can learn from my mistakes here on this channel, because really at the end of the day, we want to help advance you guys into the hobby, and you know, together we can learn from each other's mistakes, and then also pick up a trick or two, and then maybe you guys can leave something in the comments below. Obviously, we're going to throw this out now. And so that's one of the things we do here on this channel is we do long format content to get you guys in a position where you can be a better pilot, or maybe you can come back to the hobby after a small hiatus or a long hiatus. And we want to help get you guys started. And there's a lot of questions. If you're used to, you know, setting up crystals in your radio, you got your transmitter and receiver crystals. Nope, not anymore. Now we have DSMX, we have Spectrum, we have Futaba. You know, we've got different protocols that we use. And there's actually quite a few protocols out there, SL2, and then there's, you know, DSMX, and then this one we have DSMX because we chose to use a DSMX transmitter, which DSMX is right after DSM2, which is right after DSM1. And then before that, I don't know what it was because I wasn't in the hobby at that time. I've been doing this with Megan for about 9 years. And prior to that, I had history with these as a kid, and I would have had crystals, but I never actually flew radio controlled airplanes. My dad did, and then my grandpa did. Okay, so we can look at this and just kind of show the people it's kind of setting up and everything. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's going to fling too much, but I still will just retest, make sure that the solvent didn't create too much of a difference. But as you guys can see, that thing is not moving. Okay, I would be willing to say that, you know, it's going to have a favorable, you know, corner. But when these things are out of balance, they are, you know, hanging down like right now. Mm-hmm. So getting back to the point I was trying to make, so we're here to help get you guys up to speed. We try not to rush too much, but we want to keep things moving and keep things, you know, appropriate for the planes we're reviewing. So obviously you're not going to be like a brand new beginner pilot for this plane, but you might be for this plane, which of course allows you to do things like that, and it won't break. And even though the prop came off, you can just pop the thing back on. So these little 400 millimeter warbirds are super fun. And as you can see, that thing just snaps right back on. Our son flies this all the time and he has a good time. And you know, we've got other planes that we've reviewed just like that. There's a whole series like that. Mm-hmm. And then you get into things like this J11, which is just absolutely gorgeous, beautiful, high performance jet where you need to have a little bit more skill. Or you've even got this bigger, you know, which by, if you guys didn't know, this is made by FMS for E-flite. So this is also made by FMS, but this is branded through E-flite, sold by Horizon Hobby. So, and we bring all this stuff to you here on Brian Phillips RC because I know you guys are curious, and if you're watching this channel, you have natural curiosity and you don't mind acting on it, you know, because after all, isn't that what killed the cat? So you're in the right place because you don't even have to kill your cat because we'll do that here for you.
Yeah.
Anyway, so getting back to the point, you can use tape to balance your prop. What you do is you spin it up, and if you hear that buzz, you pick one size, you put a little piece of tape on, you spin it back up. Did the noise get better? Yes, it did. Put a little more tape on that side. Did it get better? Yeah, it sounds pretty good. I'm done. Put the tape away, you're done. Did it get better or worse? It got worse. Oh crap, take it off, put it on the other side, same size. Build up the tape until you're satisfied, peel off the tape, take more, put it on one big piece, make it nice and clean, and you're done. It's not hard to do it with a 2-blade prop, but if you've got a 3-blade prop, it definitely behooves you to use something like this little prop balancer. It's just gonna make it easier on you. And what we're gonna do next is we're gonna fire up the transmitter, and we're actually gonna go ahead and spin that thing up and show you just how perfect it sounds. Now, I also brought out a sanding sponge. Or is that a standing block? Sanding block,
just a sanding block, yeah.
So this sanding block is a lot of times what I'll use alternatively, or I'll use like a Dremel tool. Of course, mine is a cheap brand. And I will just take it. Let's suppose this was heavy and I wanted to take down some. You could do this, but of course you don't want to lose this beautiful finish. You're going to do everything you do on the back. And you also want to especially avoid the sharp trailing edge needs to stay sharp, and then the leading edge, the sharp trailing edge needs to stay sharp, and the blunt leading edge needs to stay the shape it is as much as possible. But for instance, on that P47, I used the Dremel, and I had to walk all the way up and down the length of it to take off. I mean, I had a big mess on the table. Of course, we didn't film that. But just to give you an idea, you may have to do that from time to time. And so it's no big deal. Don't feel bad. It's just part of the, part of the process. You didn't do anything wrong. If you have to balance a prop, that's just part of it. And sometimes you'll get brand new props that have print, and the print will actually cause the prop to be out of balance. And you're like, geez, you didn't think about that when you engineered this, you morons. So anyway, I had one the other day that was a slow flight prop we were using for an unreleased product at this point, so I can't talk about it. But anyway, I put the slow flight prop on, and the thing vibrated like crazy. So I'm like, this is ridiculous. So I went downstairs, and I have this set up at my table, and I took a little bit of material off. Next thing you know, it was near perfect. And so I ended up adding a little teeny bit of glue on the other side just to kind of make it up. So I added and took away on that particular prop, and I got it perfect. And all the ugly stuff was on kind of the back side. And as you can see now, if you stroke your finger crossed, camera crew, if you want to show them, see how it's like, it's basically set. Yeah. So that's not gonna fling across the living room. Now, some of you guys would say that's an inappropriate way because that stuff can chip off. True, and I will concur with that. There are better ways. You can also take a drill and you can drill a small hole, or you can just take more material off. But I find that when you have 3 blades, you find the one that's the outlier and you fix whatever's wrong with it, whether it be adding, or you find one that's heavy, then you can take a little bit away from it. But if you don't have one that's real obvious, you got to pick the easiest one. Yeah. Because you want to change them as less as possible. Now this octagon is going to slide back here, so we'll just put this back together, which you guys have already seen that in the unbox build radio setup. And if you don't know what I mean when I say unbox build radio setup, every single plane that you see essentially on this channel, we have done an unbox build radio setup where we get the plane, we open it up, we look at all the components, we fawn at how beautiful it is or puke at how disgusting it is, and then we assemble it together. We go through that process, and that way you guys can learn a thing or two if you need to, or if you're like 10 times my expert level, then you just watch and laugh. I'm looking for a 4S pack, sorry guys. So here's a 4S pack, and I can't remember what size connector it's got in this one, because I was using adapters, I think. But then, if you want to find out, like you watch the flight and you say, boy, I really, really like this. Or, boy, I really, really liked that little 0 over there. Or, man, look at that A10. That thing looks like a cow. It's amazing. So I want to know more about that. Well, all you have to do is go to Brian Phillips RC, and you can help that tool sort through the literally thousands of videos here on Brian Phillips RC on YouTube. Or you can just use the tools on YouTube to search. Once you click on my face, there's like a picture somewhere around here that's got me, and I've got like glasses on, and I've got a headset, and I'm in an airplane and all this stuff. I was actually in the co-pilot seat, and my dad was piloting the aircraft at that time, and it's from like 100 years ago, so I look like a kid. Yep. I don't have a beard.
Our son was tiny.
Yes. And my son was in that plane, actually. And all he remembers about that flight was the taffy I gave him. Well, he might remember more now.
Nope, he slept through most of it.
He slept through
He
most
just
of
got
it.
candy.
But it was still cool. So anyway, the whole point is I love aviation, and we are going to help you go from where you are to where you want to be, and as much as I can do. So we've got this. We're going to put it on, but we're going to plug this in first. We have our throttle cut on. We have our gain set to the neutral. We're in our regular middle expo mode, and all of our switches are in our normal positions with the exception of throttle cut. And our thrust reverse is in forward thrust. So you want to make sure that you're protected in case something will go wrong. We've already vetted this system, so I trust it. I'm still going to hold my elbow up, as you can see, and we're going to plug this in. Now, many of you guys, especially you old-timey guys that worked with gas planes and stuff like that, have come from a different realm, and you guys are really not trustworthy of your planes. And I get it, because people have been cut and they will continue to be cut in this hobby. Oh, I suppose I should probably pick the right plane too. Two safety concerns in the hobby. One, lipos. Don't burn your house down. That would suck. It has happened, okay? Don't get caught. Be careful. It has happened, okay? Generally, those are the two things that happen. People do run into themselves. They run into cars. They run into houses, all that stuff. They run into each other. So try to avoid those things. It's good for the hobby to avoid those things. Okay, now that we've got that started, I'm gonna do a control surface test just to make sure everything works, and then I'm gonna test my throttle. Camera crew is safe. Throttle cuts off. Okay, now when we initiate this plane, thrust reverse is on until I activate full flaps and thrust reverse, and now thrust reverse is still on.
Yes.
Now it's off, and you heard the beep, okay? So now I can hold my hand here. Now, I'm gonna get a better purchase on this, just in case the thing breaks free. I don't want it to fly at my wife. You wanna get a different angle, maybe. Thank you. Like over here, so they can see from the side. That's full throttle, guys. Sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, it does.
So, a balance prop is gonna be quiet. I should have showed you what it would look like if it wasn't. The only issue is it was pretty good out of the bag. So that's how it's supposed to look. And then let's show you a little bit of thrust reverse here. I'm gonna go throttle cuts off. There's forward. As you can see, it's gonna push me a little bit forward to taxi. And then I'm gonna go full landing flaps and thrust reverse. And you hear the beep, and there's our thrust reverse. Okay? Throttle cuts on. Everything is tested. This thing is ready to rock and roll. So hopefully you'll see the flight right after we wrap this up. But that's all it takes. And honestly, all the jabbering and blah, 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 you cut that out. In real life, it's this long. It's gonna take you 7 minutes to do it instead of 37
38.
minutes. But what we do here on Brian Phillips RC is more than just showing you what we did. We don't just necessarily, I mean, occasionally we do that, but most of the time we're gonna show you exactly what we did so you can see it and you can say, yeah, am I up to that? And then you can make up your own mind. Because really, at the end of the day, we're all at different spectrums. I mean, some of you guys are way over here, really super skilled, you know, building jet turbines, really experienced, have a lot of technical knowledge. And then some of you are over here, brand new, and you're like, what is an ESC? I don't know. It's an electronic speed control, by the way. Why do I need to know that? Because it's important to know that the size is right so you don't burn it up, because it'll literally catch on fire. Well, what size LiPo do I use? Stay tuned. Watch about each plane. We're going to teach you what we need to know. And the thing is, so we don't know where you are. We assume you're somewhere in the middle, and we assume, hey, you've picked this video to watch about this plane, so you must be in that range. Or maybe you're reaching up as a noob, or you're reaching back to think, boy, look how far I've come, you know? So either way, we want to appeal to both audiences, and so we try to strike the balance. So if you guys are somewhere way up there, thanks for still watching. And if you're someone way down there and you're just getting started, don't give up. There's so much to this hobby. Watching me make mistakes will make you a better pilot. I promise you that. And trust me, I've made a lot of mistakes on camera for the world to see. And it's not because I'm just got some weird fetish about being embarrassed. You know, I share these things because I know that it's more important for the audience and this group of people that follows behind us is going to be a better group of pilots, a more informed group of pilots, better capable pilots, you know, buying the right stuff, you know, really, and getting the most enjoyment out of the same number of dollars. That's what we want from this. But we also want to grow the audience. We want to make more pilots out there, just like the flight test guys are doing. We just do it a different way. And a lot of other great YouTubers out there that are trying to teach and show you guys what to do. The difference is here, we kind of tend to do a little bit more on the educational side. And we hope that that shows through and you guys will reciprocate by buying these planes from the links down below. Maybe you can't buy the planes, you'll buy the battery, or maybe you can't buy the battery, you buy the receiver or the transmitter, or maybe you don't even like the one we picked in that video, but we have other choices down below and you can pick whatever fits your budget or needs. But at the end of the day, not many of these other YouTubers are showing you crashing into a tree and then how to fix it. They're gonna show you missing the tree by the skin of their teeth in a well-edited video. We don't do that just because we know that's all part of this thing. It's all part of this enjoyment of the hobby is, I like to call it the spice of life. I have a very, very spicy life.
You do.
Because I crash a lot. So anyway, guys, you can get here. It's really not that far down the road. This is not a hard to fly plane. You can get here. This is actually probably a little bit harder to fly than that one, but only very, very small amount. And you guys, I know you're probably thinking, oh, of course you want me to buy this so you'll make commissions. I don't care what you buy. It doesn't matter to me. I just want you to be happy because happy people come back. But I do want you to get that because it's awesome. And I do want you to get this because it's also awesome. But like some of you guys can't fit that in your house.
Right.
Yeah, some of you guys can't fit that in your car, you know? So what are you gonna do? Take it off and put it on top? That would be cool. I wanna see it. Or some of you might need something like that, little 800 millimeter. I mean, is that one 980? What is this one?
It's the 800 millimeter size class.
So it's like 780
Yeah,
or something
not
like
exactly
that.
8.
So you guys might be in the market for something like this. This flies worse than that. You know why? It's cheaper and it's smaller and it's simpler and it's got more wing loading actually in this case. But this is a great flying plane for its size. But we're gonna show that, we're gonna show it and review it in a way that makes sense for what we're reviewing. We're not gonna say best, greenest, zero ever made, cheapest, you know, whatever. This is none of those things. It's a good plane. It's mid-grade. You know, it's not the best we've ever seen. It's not the worst we've ever seen. It's got a nice looking pilot. It's got good scale lines. I love the 3-bladed prop. There's a lot of good things about this plane, but it's not the best plane ever. Neither is this, neither is that, although I really do like that. And big is pretty cool because when it's your biggest, your fastest, your best, I'm speaking in my experience. And you guys might have had a 2.6 meter zero that's amazing. So I don't know. But in my experience, that's a great place to be if you're a brand new flyer. And so there's nothing wrong with that. And so we go into great detail to try to get you the most out of this plane, which by the way, I crashed this plane in the Maiden. And you can see right there, a little evidence of it.
Oh, that's right, you did.
And we showed how to fix it. And then we flew it again just to prove. And you probably can't tell that it was crashed until I just pointed that out to you. So there's so much to gain in this hobby. And we know that you're here because you've seen a little bit of that value in our videos. And we appreciate you being here. So definitely smash the like button before we go back outside and fly this thing. And we'll be doing it right now, although it's dark. So just a little movie magic. We'll wait till a good flying day and we'll show you what this thing looks like with the new and balanced prop. And yes, if you hear that noise, that's because braking is on right now because that's part of the thrust reverse configuration. So stay tuned. So much more from Brian Phillips RC. You're gonna see this thing back in the air. You'll see that thing back in the air too. And you'll see pretty much all these planes sitting up here right now. You'll see them in the air again. We have footage of, or we're gonna be collecting footage of all of them, just like we always do. Don't forget these guys over here.
Sorry, didn't go all the way around.
We always do some second thoughts. And one of the double-edged swords about doing reviews on YouTube is that we get these planes early and we get a lot of them. And that's super cool. But we may only get to fly them 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 times if we're really lucky. And that is like really sucky because I want to spend a lot of time on each of these planes and I can't because there's always something around the corner and that's why you're going to come back. But definitely check out the link. This thing's good. 1400 millimeter FMS T-28, really good. And if you don't like that and you want to go real big, 2 meter from E-flite. If you want to go a little bit smaller, 1.2 meter from E-flite. It's going to come in the same color trim livery. Yep. It's going to come like this. And it's got a 3-bladed prop, absolutely gorgeous from E-flite. And then just below that, we've got a 1.1 meter. And yes, that's about half the size of that plane. That's about a third the size of this plane. And then yes, there are T-28s in this size class too. And we've done that too. So you guys, you want to see T-28s? We got T-28s all out the wazoo here on Brian Phillips RC. So just click the little kid picture of me in the airplane, and then you can go to search and just type T-28. You'll find them all. So watch them, like them, enjoy them, learn what you need to learn before you spend $1,000 on a plane that you're not ready for. Because maybe you're really only in the market for a $170 plane. That might be the difference. So, and then when you crash it, you won't feel like, you know, jumping off a bridge or something. We want you to, you know, get to this eventually. And so we want you to have a great experience. We're gonna help you do that. Stay tuned, guys.
Okay, it's all fixed, guys. Look at this. We've got the T-28 repaired after having crashed into the trees down there. We're gonna fly this right now again and just show you that even after crashes, you can come back. Okay, so thrust reverse, as you know, is only applied with full landing flaps, okay? And so we're gonna give forward thrust. We're gonna do a little back taxi. Actually, you know what? The wind is so calm, we'll take off this way. All right, here goes nothing. Out of the gear, out of the flaps. Flying on 4,000 4S right now. Beautiful clouds. Okay, just realizing I need sunglasses because the sun just came out. 100% throttle. An absolutely gorgeous flight performance, guys. Trying to get with clouds so the camera crew can catch it. The landing flaps coming down. A little bit of throttle, just keep that prop moving. Beautiful. Take off flaps into the throttle. Kind of going crosswind. Now we're going straight into the wind. Should be able to get by with almost no throttle. About 15, 20%, 30% throttle here. Absolutely gorgeous. Just gonna peel off. A little bit of coordinated turn, a lot of rudder, hardly any elevator or ailerons. Flaps all together. Hard on the throttle. Up. And down and around through the bowl. Guys, love the way this plane flies. It flies really good. If you guys haven't had a chance to get your hands on one of these 1400s, you might want to consider it. Obviously, bigger is not always better, but in this case, we really do enjoy it. It seems like the bigger you go with this carbon, excuse me, not the carbon, but just the T-28, the better experience. Let's see if we can slow down even more here. Goodness gracious, look at this. Lots of rudder. Yeah, we don't want to hit the house. Let's go by the bowl, please. Hard on the throttle. A lot of rudder, keep that nose pointed down, and then heavy on the elevator. Very good handling characteristics. I want to slow it down more, but we have wind. Camera crew, you got to go up there. Thank you, right there. And then up out of the bowl into the takeoff flaps and below the sun. Out of the flaps altogether, full throttle. We'll take it down the runway. One step forward, please. And that was terrible because I couldn't see. Full throttle downhill. So folks, this T-28 is not always tame if you don't want it to be. Take off flaps, landing flaps, and gear. We're gonna take a final steep, but we're gonna slow down before we get there. We're gonna just kind of go over the killing zone where we hit the thrust reverse wrong. We're just gonna see if we can do this perfectly. A little rudder to get it under the sun, and then up. We're gonna go over this way and then roll out level. And we'll final from way up here this time. Okay, gear coming down. Get that nose pointed downward. Bring it in. We are definitely. We're going to be Johnny on the spot with our thrust reverse. A little bit of throttle, a little bit of throttle, a little bit of throttle. There's our thrust reverse, guys. So as you can see, it's so much better if you don't deploy it while you're still flying. We have 1 minute left. Listen to that prop, what a beauty. So if you guys are wondering how much fun this plane is, wonder no longer. It is amazing. I'm gonna do a short field takeoff for you. Once I get doubled back around, we got a little bit of wind from right to left, and we're going to take advantage of it right now. Okay, you good? Mm-hmm. Full throttle. Out of the flaps, out of the gear. And our timer's counting down. Over the Eagle killing zone. Okay, we're gonna go behind us. 3 steps toward the runway. Take off flaps. We got a gear door that's not quite right. Going back into the gear. Oh yeah, we're good now. Stall turn coming. Had to give it a little kiss of throttle. Right down the runway. Beautiful. Stall turn the other way, if I can get it. Nope, not gonna get it. Get that thing flying, full throttle. You guys notice I didn't freak out when I got that thing stalled upside down, all cattywampus. Oh yeah, just a crazy little shenanigans up there, full landing flaps. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna double back around and do a different approach this time. Gear coming out, a little bit harder on the throttle because we got full landing flaps out. Okay, here we go. Going over the one tree that's real hard to see during the winter, but you can see right now. We'll just try this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful landing. Whoa. There it is, folks. So, no problemo. What a beautiful, beautiful plane. We're 1 minute 21 over our timer on 4000 4S, and we're gonna see if we can get one more sorties out of it. And we're gonna take off flaps only. Listening for manned aircraft. Hey, up there, show the people. See the manned aircraft, folks? Always gotta yield to manned aircraft. He's a long ways away, so we should be good, but I'm gonna give him about 5 seconds. Camera crew, while we're waiting, let's film down yonder. I'm gonna go ahead and take off with full landing flaps this time. Okay, full throttle. Out of the flaps, out of the gear. We'll just go the other direction. Take off flaps only. We're just gonna go down in the bull. And then we're just jank it for a presentation pass. Absolutely gorgeous, folks. No alarm, no warning, no weakness, no hesitation. Let's try going up here and doing a fast landing. Okay, so we got no flaps, gear coming down. You guys are new to the hobby, you're not sure what flaps are. Flaps help slow you down. Watch this approach speed. See what I'm talking about, folks? Big difference, right? Now what I'm gonna do is I'll show you the same thing. We'll just cruise on around, going way low so we can get out of the sun. We'll come in kind of about the same vector. Okay, here we go. Gear coming out. Okay, take off flaps this time. Full landing flaps, force the nose down. Look how much she'll slow down. Look at this, guys. Different world. Full throttle, reverse thrust, and there you have it. Difference in speed is pinnacle. If you can get landed, then you save the plane. That was a quick landing. Looks like an aircraft carrier landing. So, we're still not dead. We still don't have any signs of being dead. So what I'm gonna do is I'll go ahead and back taxi just a little bit so you can look at that beautiful face. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take off my flaps. We might just go ahead and jank real, oh dang it, I don't think we're gonna get off to go walk and get it. All right guys, so no flaps, take off here. Full throttle. Even with that, look how much faster it is, folks. About 50% throttle takeoff flaps coming in now. If you guys aren't using flaps because you don't need them, you're crazy. Flaps make the planes fly so good. Especially this plane, guys. Hands off, basically. Not like auto leveling hands off, it's just such a good flying plane, hands off. Look at this. A little bit more throttle there just to appease the gods of gravity. Here we go, full throttle. Man, I love flying this plane. It's so much fun. Okay, coming in. Hey, 14 steps this way. So beautiful, folks. There's manned aircraft somewhere. I can't see it.
I think it's a truck.
Oh, is that what it is?
Oh, I think so.
Okay, full landing flaps. We're gonna go in front. We good, camera crew? Okay. What a beauty. Okay, let's go back to our normal spot. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a landing with just takeoff flaps this time. After all, really what we wanna present in this video is thrust reverse is not needed, but it is sure nice. Now, I won't be able to deploy them. I don't think I can deploy them because of the nature of our setup here. Getting my airspeed up. Flare. Here we go, guys. As you can see, muscle memory said, put thrust reverse on, and look what happened. I made a mistake-o. Okay, so here, takeoff flaps. On base leg, full landing flaps. Point the nose down, keep the plane flying. A little bit, 30% throttle. And there's our warning. That's pretty good. 6 minutes 54, so about 7 minutes plus 5, plus walking back to reset once. So let's call that 10 minutes conservatively to the first beep, which means we could still fly for a little bit longer yet. In fact, I think we can go at least one. So why don't we go ahead and back it up with some thrust reverse here. Remember, with those full deployed flaps, that's the only way we can back up. So you're gonna tend to be pretty wonky, and just be aware of it. That's just the way it goes, because you're gonna be lined up into the wind, and look what happens to that nose wheel. It just pops up and pops down, so it's just kind of wonky. Okay, takeoff flaps only, into forward thrust, and here we go. It's gonna start beeping here pretty quick. Oh yeah, I can feel low voltage. Okay, so I'm very in preservation mode, gear coming out. Full landing flaps, nose down. Keep the nose down, a little bit of throttle. Thrust reverse, slow it down for beauty, and then bring it in for a nice taxi, folks. What an absolute joy. And AR620 is all it took, plus the included reflex, which we forced to stabilizer on. Excuse me, did I say reflex V2? Reflex V2. What a joy, guys. If you haven't already bought this thing for yourself, throttle cuts on. That was another 3 minutes of flight time. So we're up to like what, 12 minutes? Probably a little bit of jabbering in there, so let's call it 12. So beautiful, beautiful plane by FMS, 1.4 meter, and it's everything you want from a T-28. Unless, of course, you crash it because you're stupid. And if you do, it's still what you wanted because it was fun crashing it. Get this one. If you haven't considered it, consider it now. Check the links in the video description below. If you guys are waiting on a Carbon Z by chance, I understand the pain and suffering. I too had to wait and then got one, and it's amazing. So really, between you and me, you're gonna be happy with either one. But if you can't fit the Carbon Z in your budget, or you can't fit it in your car, you're gonna really enjoy this one. Yep. And I'm serious, though, guys, it's good. You will really like it, and I promise you will. So definitely consider this T-28 from FMS. It's not every bit as good because it's a little bit smaller. It's not every bit as good because it's not bind and fly with as many channels as we need to fully articulate the reverse thrust. But with an AR620 in here, it's pretty cheap when you put that up and pair it into this plane. So just keep in mind, big cost difference might be enough to, you know, maybe nudge the wife into a purchase allowance versus a heck no allowance. So I live in Realityville, And we all know we're looking for permission for planes. It's usually better to ask for forgiveness in my experience, but I would definitely suggest that if you're on the fence with the T-28 and the 2 meter size, that you seriously consider the 1.4. You're gonna be very happy with it. And if you don't like the 1.4, the 1.2 is amazing. If you don't like the 1.2, you'll like the 1.1. And if you don't like the 1.1, you'll like the 750. And if you don't like the 750, you might like the 980. But if you don't like any of those, you can get the 400 millimeter.
Yeah.
And all I'm gonna say is they're all really good, but this one is great. Thrust reverse, 1.2, thrust reverse, 2.0, thrust reverse. I really like flaps, retracts, and thrust reverse, and LEDs. And you'll get all three on this if you do it like we did. If you haven't seen it, look in the unbox, build, and radio setup, and we do show how to set up the thrust reverse. We did that in there, or did we do it in the Maiden? If you haven't seen it, check out the Maiden too. This is gonna be our second thought, so it's kind of where we revisit the plane. Finally, we're getting into spring, but spring has doled out several blizzards. Thank you, spring. All right, guys, that's all you get for tonight. Hopefully you enjoyed the T-28. Check it out. In the links of the video description below, you'll be helping to support us with commissions that paid from the companies you buy planes from. And then you'll also help us to build relationships with these companies that we ask to send stuff so we can beat them up over how bad they did their quality control on certain items. And that's what we do here on Brian Phillips RC, is we show you the way it's really gonna come out of the box. And then also how to fix it after you make a mistake or the company sends you something that's bad and you have to fix it because you crash into the wall. That's what we do here on Brian Phillips RC. We also help to stop one and dones, new people that get into the hobby. They buy the wrong plane, crash immediately, hate the hobby, never go back and tell all their friends how bad it sucked. We don't want people like that. We want people to have success, find success, and get out of the hobby for natural reasons like dying. Also, if you're coming back to the hobby, that's the other people that we speak to largely on this channel. If you've been out of the hobby for 20 years because you had kids you were rearing, then now is the time. Get flying ASAP, because you aren't guaranteed tomorrow a beer truck could hit you and you could be done. Remember, natural ways of quitting the hobby that are acceptable for Brian Phillips are death. Otherwise, you got to keep flying. So, sorry, but you're here to stay. And we hope you guys enjoy watching us spend time on these beautiful models. And if you want to support us other ways, we have Patreon and PayPal, but we still think the best way is to just buy the planes when you like them. It's a win-win for you. It's a win for us. It's a win for the distributor, local hobby shop, whoever it is that we're working with on a particular video. We got links down below. That's how you reward them for sending us items to review for you so that you can make up your own mind in a no-nonsense way here on Brian Phillips RC. We show it the way it really is, not the way that the marketing agents at Horizon or the marketing agents at FMS or the marketing agents at Hobbytown or wherever it is that we're working with on a particular video want us to tell you. We tell you what we see and what we notice. Sometimes we don't even notice some of the best features, which is embarrassing, but it has happened once or twice. Just like that one time I was wrong. Do you remember that, honey?
Yeah, a minute ago? Or
So anyway, if you've been married. So guys, check it out. There's so many ways to support us. The biggest is to, of course, watch, smash the like button, click the bell for notifications, subscribe if you haven't already. And then when you're hooked, you'll be buying these things from the links. We know you will, because that's the way you support us, and you've been doing it for years, and we appreciate you. Also, there's more coming. So stay tuned for Brian Phillips RC's next video. It's coming soon.